Hey YouTube, Darren here. It's kind of an update, and I wanted to give a shout out to some people and tell you what's going on and do a little bit of math. Don't be scared. But first, let's do some shout outs. Mudding Mower 65, thanks for subscribing, guy. Country Boy 7213, thanks man. RC Gary 24. PUGZCAN, Pugs Can 2, thanks man. Denny Puff. And this video is going out, it's for Jacob Geifer. Jacob, I hope this is going to help you. We're going to do RPM conversion. Doesn't that sound like fun? Yes, it is. And as always, if you guys would take a look at Southern Off-Road Mowers and start posting some crap to it, because it would make me smile. But first, I also did want to show you, it's my Redneck Party Pack. It's a Bug Zapper and a 12-pack of Bush Beer. I like Bush Beer. Okay guys, this is something that I wanted to let Mr. Geifer know about. This is a conversion to figure out your RPM of your transaxle or your transmission. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the motor. You'll need to find out a known. You'll need to find out what the maximum RPM of your motor is. Now a lot of these Briggs & Stratton, if they're governed and pretty much stock, they're going to be turning around 3600 RPMs. You can check your numbers, your model numbers, and you can get the RPM, the max RPM of that motor from that. And then what you're going to do is multiply the maximum RPM of the motor by the pulley in inches. So you're going to multiply the RPM of the motor by the motor pulley, and we're going to use 3600 RPM pretty much as our benchmark, because that's an average. 3600 RPM of the motor. Some of the twin cylinders turn a little higher, so check your numbers, your model numbers, by the inch of the pulley. So we're going to say you have a 5-inch pulley. Okay. All right, now we've moved it down a little bit. So 3600 motor RPM times, you multiply the 5-inch motor pulley, and that's going to give you 18,000. Okay, we're going to save that number, 18,000. Okay guys, we're going to take that 18,000 and then we're going to divide it by the pulley on the transaxle or the transmission, and for this case let's say it's again another 5-inch pulley. 18,000 divided by the 5-inch transaxle pulley. Alright, hold on just a second guys. Now that we're back, 18,000 divided by the 5-inch transaxle pulley is going to give you an RPM of 3600 RPM. That is going to be what your transaxle is turning RPM wise. This doesn't have anything to do with miles per hour or anything like that. This is RPM is what we're working on. So a 5-inch pulley, it's been turned by a 3600 RPM motor. Let me back out so you can see. And it's going to another 5-inch pulley, and it's going to be divided, and that's going to come out with the 3600 RPM. This is pretty much going to be a 1-to-1 as far as RPM goes. Like I said, this is not horsepower, this is RPMs. So if you're wanting to get your transaxle to turn a lot higher RPM than your motor, what you could do is put a smaller pulley. This is how all of this works. We can put a smaller pulley on the transaxle. So let's do that real quick. Okay. More to come. Now, let's say we have that 3600 RPM motor and a 5-inch pulley on the motor. You multiply that. That comes out to the 18,000. You're going to divide that. And let's say you swapped your pulleys. You went down to a 4-inch transaxle pulley. Now your transaxle is turning 4,500 RPM as opposed to the 3,600 RPM. You'll notice it's a marked increase. That's something you can feel. So take this formula if you want to figure out what kind of RPMs. Horsepower is great. I love horsepower. RPM and torque is what moves it. It's the same old argument we used to have when we were racing cars. Horsepower, torque, or RPM. You want to have a lot of it. You got to make it stick. You want it to move. No spinning, nothing like that. Now, I will say one thing, and then I'll let you go because I know this is kind of lengthy and dull. When you are generating a lot of RPMs at that transaxle, your belt is going to be the weakest point, or your tensioner. And that can be a good thing because a belt or a tensioner or an idler pulley is a lot cheaper to replace than the motor or the transaxle. So the weakest link in this is going to be the belt, in my opinion. Now, you can dispute it, but that's not a bad thing. So I'll put my Kevlar belt on it, and I'm going to put a big pulley on the front and a smaller pulley on the back so I can generate a lot more RPMs and make those tires turn for the mud. But I'm going to know that more than likely my weakest link is going to be in that belt. You also are putting a whole lot of stress on that transaxle and that pulley. That's why I end up going through a lot more transaxles than I do motors. I haven't blown a motor yet, and I think in the past 8 months I've gone through 3 on 2 mowers. Kind of dull, but somebody asked me to do that. Jacob, I hope that helps. There's other conversions you can do as far as figuring out the horsepower as well if you want to get further down into it, and then you have to take into account the height of the tires and stuff like that. It's cool stuff. T-Man does a really good a video of it. T-Man's Karts, or T-Man Karting. He does some really good videos on explaining this, and I learned a couple of things from his, but this is an RPM schematic that I actually got from work. So hope it helps somebody, guys. If you have any questions or anything, always give me a holler. Thanks, guys. Y'all go do some mayhem.